What is up, everyone? It's been a while since I recorded an episode, and I'm glad to be back. We got a special guest, and first things first, you're listening to the Air Raid Attack podcast, and we are in the month of November. Yes, that means Turkey, Black Friday sales, and guess what? Christmas is just right around the corner. Not to kind of give you guys a Debbie Downer, but Christmas is right around the corner. But nonetheless, glad to be back on. First things first, I have a great guest, a guy that I'm excited to learn more from and to learn more of. And first things first, he's the author of his new first book, actually titled "Prepared: The Guide to a Successful Collegiate Experience for Athlete and Parents," and definitely going to pick his mind on that one. He is the former University of Kentucky and Eastern Illinois quarterback, Mr. Jalen Whitlow. Jalen, welcome to the Air Raid Attack podcast, and I'm stoked to have you on.
Man, glad to be on, man. Thanks for having me.
Hey, it's an honor to have you on. Of course, we were shooting for last week, but circumstances kind of kicked in. But nonetheless, I'm ecstatic to have you on. And first things first, kind of tell the listeners out there a little about yourself and what Mr. Whitlow is all about.
Yeah, man. So, born and raised in Montgomery, Alabama. Um, Grew up in a pretty big family, man. Dad was a football coach and basketball coach growing up. So, grew up in a coach's household. My mom was actually a cheerleading coach earlier uh, in my sister's cheerleading days and whatnot. But pretty much everybody were athletes at some point. All of the boys played, football, basketball, baseball. Busy athletic sports family. Got a chance to play some good high school football at Prattville High School. So I left Montgomery, moved to Prattville, around March of my sophomore year. I was at Jeff Davis in Montgomery, ended up going to Prattville High School. Played for, a pretty well-known high school football coach, Jamie DuBose, who's at Lowndes in Georgia right now. They're doing well. They just won a region championship. And even all the other coaches on the staff, great coaching staff, man. I was really lucky. We had 150 guys on the team, man. All 150 guys were lucky to play for those coaches because we actually learned a lot, experienced a lot of things, got a chance to fly to Miami and play games and play on ESPN and, the whole nine. So it was about as best as you can get as far as, high school football. Won a state championship senior year. My senior class, we signed 30 guys, signed scholarships to go play college ball. So that was a big deal. I think the biggest ever in school history. Said coaches helped us get recruited. So with that, I was able to go to University of Kentucky out of high school. Played there as a freshman. I actually came in, I was probably about fourth on the depth chart. Some things happened, things transpired, and found myself, being a starter for about, 8 games. So I played at Kentucky freshman and sophomore year, ended up transferring after my sophomore year to Eastern Illinois University. Super small town, super small D1 school in Charleston, Illinois. But it was actually super fun too, though, man. I met some of my best friends, had a chance to get coached by some good coaches, learned a lot of football. Actually coached there one year after I was done playing and finishing my degree. So it was great. Couldn't complain. Great experience, man. Played in some good games. Played Minnesota, played Northwestern, played in some big games. Played for a conference championship. Unfortunately, didn't win it, but got a chance to play for it. Ended up playing a team, Jacksonville State, who ended up playing in the national championship game and losing to North Dakota State with Carson Wentz and whatnot. So, but yeah, man, got a chance to make a lot of connections, man. That's kind of what my book about too. Ran into a lot of people throughout my college experience and learned a lot. It's definitely I'm definitely thankful and grateful for my college experience and what happened and what transpired so far throughout my life and kind of what the sport of football has, afforded me. and afforded, a lot of my friends who played, and even my friends who didn't play in college that played high school ball. So lucky to play a great game, coach a great game, still coaching it. And that's kind of what I'm about, man. Is teaching the game, coaching the game, and hopefully, players that I'm coming in contact with, hopefully they're taking things that they can learn in life through what I'm teaching throughout, through the sport of football. So that's kind of what I'm about. Definitely, about some other things as well, but just for, what we're doing today, that's what it is, man.
A very nice and kind of pick your brain. Well, first off, were you there? Because I know Mark Stoops has been there a while. Was he there when you were at UK, or was he after your tenure there?
Right. So Coach Stoops came in January of my freshman year. So I went through a spring with Coach, and I went through a season with Coach Stoops as the head coach. Got a lot of respect for the guy, man. He's a great coach. Obviously, you can see that he's turned around a program that's, typically a one SEC win a year, maybe two, a lucky year three, just being honest. Now, they beat Florida, beat LSU, playing good ball, beat Missouri, just playing good football, man, playing good physical football. Got some great coaches in there, great strength staff, one of the best and most underrated strength staffs in the country, probably, from the guys that I know on that staff. Learned a lot and actually teaching, some of the stuff that was taught from them. I'm still teaching it to people now. So, but yeah, so Coach Stoops was there. He came in. I remember the day his introductory speech. We all went to the field house, another field house, shook his hand and whatnot. Got a chance to see him. And it was the beginning of something that eventually was going to develop into something pretty good. So you've seen that, the past 4 or 5 years, how he's kind of changed that program around. But a lot of respect for Coach. I can't say enough good things about him.
Of course, all the listeners out there, and of course, people are like, well, you're going to bring up Bob, and not so much going to be bring up Bob, but is he as fight? I know Mike Stoops is a little feisty. Behind the scenes, of course, I am a huge fan of Mark Stoops, and really, I think what he's done a phenomenal job at Kentucky. Just in general, I think you spoke words of that as well. Is he as fight? Is he? How is he? How is he behind the scenes? Is he feisty, or is he more just laid back? But at the end of the day, he wants your guys to do your job and try to perform at the highest level as much as possible.
Yeah, I think he's both, man. He's both of the extremes. I've had some terrible plays as a quarterback at Kentucky, and he was
Right.
super calm, level-headed. But we've seen him at practice too, and people know, people see on TV how he get at those referees sometimes.
Right.
But he definitely, he has both extremes. He's on, both sides of the spectrum. But one thing I can say, the players love him. I hadn't met one football player that didn't like Coach Stoops. They respect him first because he's an honest guy, so that's good. But yeah, I mean, I think you get out of him what you deserve. He's super feisty, super tough. From Youngstown, Ohio. Everybody I met from Youngstown, Ohio, got a rough edge to him. So it was good, man. I think his style of coaching was needed at Kentucky. He's a player's coach first. So, he knows what the players want, and he strives to give it to them as far as just the experience.
Right.
And he's also a great X's and O's coach on defense. And he's a great program runner, right? He's a great CEO, director of a program, as you seeing that now. So yeah, he's kind of both, man. We've seen, the red, fiery Coach Stoops at practice, and we've seen the laid back. When things are going like they need to go, practice is going like it needs to go. He's laid back and he's letting his coaches coach and do their thing. So, he got both sides, man.
Yeah, that's really cool. I'm not going to talk too much about him, but no, that's really cool. And if people don't realize, and my next question, I guess, and kind of interesting to kind of see what you say is coming into a university that's in no, I shouldn't say fortunately, unfortunately, but fortunately, it's a basketball school primarily. And we all know that with Kentucky, but coming into a program, trying to get the fans to rally behind the football team, did it affect any of you guys really? Like, or is it just face like or just a facts of life? No, it's a football or a basketball program that, and we're just here to play and get the great support because obviously Big Blue Nation, they love their sports regardless in Lexington. And I was kind of curious if that was really, because everybody likes to showcase like all the fan base really isn't behind their back because it's a basketball school, just like Kansas or whatever, Duke. But did that affect you guys any at all, or not really?
Well, I came in, early June of 2012, and coming fresh off of national championship
Right.
in basketball. So it definitely was a basketball school. That's just the honest truth. Anybody tell you anything different in that time, they'll probably be lying to you. So that's the truth. Coming in, it was a basketball school. But I saw an immediate switch and excitement boost when Coach Stoops got there. A lot changed. I just think his background from Bob Stoops, Mike Stoops, even his dad, people know his dad, a great high school coach in the state of Ohio. So, it definitely brought a boost. But yeah, man, to answer your question, yes, 110%, it was a basketball school when we got there. But now, you know, it's changing, man. It's like it's still a basketball school. I mean, at the end of the day,
right. Exactly.
But football is it's a football school too. It's catching up, and people don't realize Kentucky is like really good in other sports too. Like Kentucky is like extremely good in volleyball. They just won a national championship in volleyball. The baseball team is usually pretty solid. Softball team was usually pretty solid. Rifle team winning national championship. So, but we all know Kentucky. I mean, you just roll the dice, just ask a random person in the supermarket. Yeah, they hear about Kentucky, they think basketball.
Very nice. And I've driven through Lexington, never actually stayed or visited, but definitely driven through Lexington. But transition from Lexington to Eastern Illinois, obviously smaller university. How was the feel of it? Practically, I don't know much about Eastern. I know the wonderful football program. Don't know much about the city, but in town. But is it more of a cultural shock? How much of a huge difference? What am I looking for here? Numbers of. I'm looking for numbers. Population. There we go.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna think of it. Is it smaller population, and what was the difference between Lexington and Eastern Illinois?
Yeah, I mean, it's a stark difference, man. It's a stark change, So Charleston, Illinois is about with the students there. And to be honest with you, when I was at Eastern, when I got there, we had around 9,000 kids. When I left there, we probably had a little over 7,000.
Wow.
So the school was diminishing pretty fast. Now I heard it's growing. Small school, super small town. I would say maybe 15,000 people. The population in that town. So very, 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 very big difference. And just from what I've grown up to know, when I went to Kentucky, it was just different, man. It was a different place. I remember driving there. I was driving. My dad was asleep. He woke up and he woke up like, man, why you got me on, he was like joking, why you got me on dirt roads? Nah, it was, yeah, man. It's in the middle of nowhere, man. But I can't say enough good things about the school though. Like the people were super cool. I met some, my teammates were great. Eastern was probably the closest team I've ever been on, probably. Awesome. If I had to say, it probably rivaled my, high school team. But Eastern definitely in college, definitely 100% in college. My junior year at Eastern was probably the closest team I've ever been on.
That's awesome.
It was just, I think Dino Babers left a great culture there. And the way those guys, they were winning, so that helps. my senior year, we went to the playoffs. So that stuff helps. But it was just a good group of guys, good culture. Like, guys, you always got your kind of subgroups, right?
Absolutely.
People who, just hang out with people. We naturally got a certain affinity towards certain people, right? Just how humans work, I guess. But the team was super close. The town was a super close town. You could just tell it was one of those places when you get there. Like it's a super small, I never heard anything about Eastern Illinois until I got a call from Coach Kim Dammer when I was in my apartment at Kentucky, getting ready to transfer. I got a call from him. I never heard about the place. But yeah, to answer your question, it was a stark change, man. It was a super small town. Um, a couple food spots, not much. You got to drive Champaign, Illinois, where University of
Right.
Illinois is. It's about 45 minutes away. So if you want to go to the mall, you want to go get some Panda Express or whatever, you got to drive to Champaign. So that was, we used to drive to Champaign every now and then, but go to the mall or whatnot. But yeah, that was about 45 minutes away. But yeah, man, it was a difference. It was definitely a culture shock with the town and with the football because at Kentucky, it's like
Yep.
Kentucky and those schools, man, those SEC schools and some of those Power Five schools, it's an embarrassment of riches. You got everything you want when it comes to gear and uh, just just a lot of stuff, man. The amount of people, the fans. I mean, it's just an embarrassment of riches. So you go to a school like that in a town like that, it's definitely a change. But we chameleons, man. I adjusted and made an adjustment, but it was a great decision for me to go there. I think it's one of the best decisions I ever made for sure.
And if you don't mind me asking, sounded kind of who was the coach that called you to come up there?
Coach Kim Dameron was the head coach.
Okay.
So I talked to him, but I also talked to Coach Stevens, I think he's the offensive coordinator right now at Southeastern Louisiana.
Yes,
He
sir.
was there before he got to Eastern. He went to Eastern and he went back. And
Got
he's a sharp football mind, man. He knows what he's talking about when it comes to schematics. He's a great X's and O's guy. He knows his football, man. So I learned a whole bunch. Still running some of that stuff to this day. Still teaching some of those concepts to this day. So, but yeah, Kim Dameron was the head coach.
the reason why I asked that because the last name caught me off, not really off guard, but my head coach at Kentucky Christian University, a small town or small university in Grayson, Kentucky, in the eastern part of the state. His Dan Dameron. And so real quick, I thought you said Dan Dameron, like, time out here, hold up.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if they can, related or connected, genetically or whatnot. So I don't know.
um Real quick, kind of continue talking college football. Expansion is what college football is all about, and kind of want to see what your thoughts are. Of course, the SEC, of course, what you're familiar with. What's your thoughts on the SEC expanding again here in the next few years with Oklahoma and Texas? And is this the new? I mean, let's be honest. Is this the new way that college football is going to look like with this new multi team conference?
Yeah, I think that's just where it's going, man. I think, you're gonna have like two or three huge conferences and there's gonna be like everybody else. That's just my honest opinion. But honestly, you know, I don't love it, to be honest with you. Because it's like the SEC is such a traditional conference. It's such a,
Yeah.
you know, it's a staple in college football. And when you see the staple starting to change, we on the big changes on the horizon. So it's such a staple that you really don't like to see it. I remember growing up watching, SEC football on CBS at 3:30. That was like the thing.
Yep, that was the game of the
And
week.
sometimes we couldn't watch as much because we were out at the field all day because we had games and my dad was running the program and whatnot, so we couldn't really watch. But I remember we used to get our haircut at home
Mhm.
while watching SEC games at noon before we went out to the field, and that's just like you hate to see stuff like that change too much.
Absolutely.
So I'm kind of a traditionalist when it comes to that. Like I don't really agree with Oakland. I see why they're doing it. It's all dollar signs, and they're going to get recruits at Oklahoma and Texas because those guys from Alabama, Louisiana, Georgia, Florida, South Carolina, Tennessee, Mississippi, they're going to go to Oklahoma knowing that they're going to play most of their games close to home when they play away games. So family can come and whatnot, but I don't love it. I think Texas is struggling in the Big 12. You come to the SEC, you're definitely going to struggle. Oklahoma is just I'm not huge on their defense. I love the offense. I like Lincoln Riley what they do on offense, but I'm just not huge on their program. I don't think they have the type of program to win a national championship. But it's going to add some more spark to the conference. It's going to add some more flavor to it. But like you said, I'm a traditionalist, man. I still like seeing those same teams going at it that I've been watching my whole life. So, but it's whatever. It may be better, but the jury's still out really on where it's going. But I think it's going to you're gonna have the SEC, the Big Ten, and you're gonna have maybe a conference out west, the Pac-12, which would probably be like 20 teams or whatever. And I think that's where it's going, just personally.
I'm with you on that one. I'm definitely a traditional guy. I always grew up watching Now Thanksgiving just around the corner. And my grandpa and I, and my dad, we always watched Texas A&M on Thanksgiving, Nebraska, Colorado. The list goes on. And I'm like you, even though I'm a Big 12 guy, I miss the OU Nebraskas, even the trips to Boulder, Colorado with OU Colorado or Colorado, Texas. It doesn't matter, but no, I'm with you on that. I like the tradition, but of course, big money talks, and that's what this is. Unfortunately, is about. But I totally get it, and we'll see. We'll see. I will definitely agree on the fact that two things. One, Oklahoma definitely needs a defense because they won't be able to compete week in and week out. In Texas, boy, it's gonna.
Yeah, they're gonna have a rough. Definitely, yeah, they had a rough couple of years, especially they playing, just think about it, man. Whoever takes the LSU job, probably going to be a good coach. They're going to get good recruits. So it's just going to be tough. It's not like, playing Texas Tech and then turn around and playing, whoever else they playing over there. I know I'm super biased, but it's just what it is, man. That's I just grew up on SEC football, so that was always my dream to play in the SEC. So when Kentucky and Ole Miss came calling, I knew it was going to be one of those two because that's just we grew up right in the heart.
Hey, you can't come. I mean, let's be honest. The SEC is the best football in conference. I mean, or best conference in football. I mean, hey, that's where the big dogs play, and that's where everybody wants to be at. So I mean, we'll see. I mean, OU's got to get it together defensively. I mean, they almost lost to Kansas, Texas. I don't know what to think about them, and best of luck to them, and we'll see what happens. So you wrote a book called Prepared. First question or first thought is, what made you decide to write a book? And will we see? Well, I guess that'll be the first question is, what made you lead to writing a book? I'm sure it's a great one. I'll have to get it myself, and especially for my older son. First things first, what made you decide to write a book and start? I guess we can start from there.
Yeah, so this is the book right here,
Nice.
right here. But yeah, so kind of what made me write it was honestly one day it was during the pandemic, so I was at home, just like everybody else, just not doing too much at one point of the pandemic when we were still trying to figure out, kind of what was going on.
Right.
And I just started typing on my computer, typing my thoughts or whatever. I took a break from it because I was working in Dallas, Texas. And I was home for spring break and I got stuck here due to COVID. So I was kind of idle for a while. My car was in Texas, everything. I was super idle. So I had a lot of time on my hands. So I just started typing. Then I took a job here in Georgia at a high school coaching quarterbacks. And I got busy with that because I'm all in on football when I'm doing football. So I
Sure.
put the book on the back burner, but people who were close to me who knew I was doing this, they were egging me on to keep going and finish it. So, I buckled down, and I was during the season, I would type a little, things would come to my mind. I would type a little bit, type a couple sentences. And after the season, I put it all together and I finished it and put the finishing touches on it, edited, got the design for it and whatnot. And I self-published it on Amazon. So, but at the end of the day, what really made me do it was I really wanted to give something to high school athletes, college athletes that I wish I had. Things, there would have been some differences in my experience, I
Mhm.
would say, if I had the information that was in here prior to going to college or prior to even playing high school ball, if I had the information that was in this book. And I tell parents that, I tell high school athletes this and college athletes this all the time. You just don't know what you don't know,
Right.
right? So seek information. So, you know, it was something that was driving me to do it. And it was the fact that there's nothing else out there like it,
Mhm.
quite like it. There's not really a kind of a manual of how to go about some of the things that may come up in your day, in your year, in your career, in your experience in college. It's just not. So it's something that I found a niche a little bit, and I just decided to do it. So it's I wanted to really help those student athletes, and I've got, softball players in college who've read it and, contacted me, and, their coaches bought it and they're contacting me, and, college football players in different places that got the book, high school players who's all, I train, kids that's sophomores in high school and they've already read it through. So they got some information that there's seniors in college who don't have that information. And there's a 15-year-old sophomore who does. So I just think, it was something that I know that can help. So I decided to, kind of do it. It's kind of like a self-help thing.
I like that, and because simply, I think a lot of people don't have, and especially the smaller high schools, maybe per se, and maybe some other bigger high schools. I know at least here in Oklahoma, it's you got your independence, but it's always Class C to 6A. I think it's 6A2 now, but and I think I like that because not a lot of these student athletes are prepared to go make that jump, regardless if it's in AIA, D3 to or FCS and FBS. And I think I like that. I think that's pretty awesome to get that. Even if it's just like, well, it's just you may not have those naysayers, but it's just a book. What's it going to be? Well, it's the little things that impact people's lives that we don't realize, and that doesn't get noticed. And I think that's pretty awesome.
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it.
Are we going to see a second book in the near future?
Yeah, you definitely will see a second book in the near future. The near future could be a lot of things, but you'll definitely see a second. I've actually already started it. I
Yeah.
started it right after I finished this one, because I was still in that mode. But I've taken a break. It's kind of a zone you get in when you're writing.
Yes,
You know, I,
sir.
yeah. So I took a nice break from it. And my plan is to start back sometime soon.
Mhm.
But I got a lot of other things going on that I need to, kind of get accomplished. So it's been put on the back burner right now. But you'll know when it get released. And this one's gonna be wild. You know, prepared. The information they prepared is wild. But this one, the topics in this one, the title and the topics are gonna be kind of jaw dropping, and it's gonna help a lot of athletes, man. Like I always say, if you got athletes listening to this or parents that have athletes, grab the book. It's just, you would definitely appreciate the information that's in here, because as a 17-year-old kid, 18-year-old kid getting ready to graduate high school, I didn't know anything. I didn't have very many people to kind of give me a lot of this information about college and what to expect, and how to conduct yourself as a student athlete, how to build your personal brand. And I talk about that in the book because now we got NIL going on, where these high school kids got opportunities to, or not high school, but college, kids got opportunity to make money now. So I talk about that in the book. And I released the book before the NIL thing was even a big deal.
Wow.
So it's just something that can help, man. And I stress to, not just because of mine, but I stress to young athletes to really grab it. It's like 44 pages, man. You can read it in a day if you wanted to. But it's one of those things that you read it and you like, okay, let me go back and read it over and over and over because it's such an easy and quick read. But you're just going to gain, everything is repetition. So you're just going to gain the knowledge that you need and the wisdom that you need. 18-year-old kid with, the wisdom that's in this book, can really, change his trajectory a little bit for the better.
Absolutely. I applaud you for that. And of course, you brought up, and I was kind of leaning towards that as well. Isn't name, image, likeness, of course, biggest topic during the college football offseason, for the exception of, the SEC and the expansion. But, besides that, just focus on the student athlete part, is the name, image, likeness. I'll be honest, I have some buddies that says, nah, I'm not for it. Of course, everybody's, you got your mixed feelings here and there.
Right.
I think it's, once I did more research than when it first came out, and people also, I think it, and I got a buddy of mine, D'Artagnan Tinsley. I know him personally, so it helps him out as well. Is this a long time overdue for college athletes in general? Not so much college football, but just college athletes in general. Is this a long time overdue that should have happened probably, maybe even during your playing days? Not even.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I appreciate you asking me this because I got things to say about this, man.
Absolutely.
It's super long overdue. So that's one. I've had mixed feelings about it, because I can only imagine being 18 with a horse deal.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I can only imagine being 18 with that type of money, right? You got to have, the schools need to put, and I'm sure the big schools, they got people around them, got things in place to help those athletes, kind of manage their money and, make good decisions with it and not really burn it and spend it all. But my big thing with the NIL is super helpful to a lot of college athletes. They need it if they can get it. But the thing is, everybody in the locker room is not getting those deals like that. So,
right.
I questioned, how are you going to keep your team kind of zeroed in and focused on what they need to really be focused on? But that's kind of the, it's two sides of each coin. I mean, it is just what it is, two sides of every coin. So that's what it is. But at the end of the day, I'm glad they got it done. And I'm glad these kids get an opportunity to, to make money. But my big thing was the schools and the NCAA still got off the hook, man. To be honest with you, the schools and the NCAA are not giving people anything. It's the businesses that got to make the deals with the athletes. So the NCAA did a great job of, once again, about a no-look pass, right? Behind the back, no-look pass. The universities also, they're not shelling out a dime to these athletes. It's the businesses that's doing it. So at the end of the day, all the NCAA and the, and these universities had to do is, okay, write a bill and say, look, they got a rule book. Okay, this is what it is, right? At the end of the day, if I'm the NCAA, nothing's changing with us. Right, we're still the same entity. Right, we're not losing any money because of NIL. Right, we're not giving any money to athletes, so they still got off the hook. These huge universities with, unlimited amount of money still got off the hook. But at the end of the day, as a young athlete who's in college, they don't care about that. All they know is, okay, I got an opportunity to make some money. So that's all they see. But as a person who's, removed from that world, and I know better now, I still see how, let's call it what it is. NCAA is getting over. Let's be honest.
Yep.
They make a lot of money, man, and they, from what I know, I could be wrong, but from what I've know and what I've read, the NCAA is still off the hook. They're not giving any money to anybody. So But at the end of the day, good for the athletes, though. I'm happy for those guys.
Most definitely, and and I think the biggest picture that I think a lot of people miss, and I think we forget, and that might just be this, the world that we live in, that we assume that, for example, let's say Spencer Rattler, the quarterback, Oklahoma, and he's got his deals X, Y, and Z, and let's say Bryce Young at Alabama X, Y, Z, and but I think we forget that a lot of these kids, even at the smaller universities, a lot of them come back from the background that the that might have come from a family that can't afford college. So these half scholarships are, of course, a lot of help, and it helps them out, not having to fork out, loans to pay for college. And it might, even if it is loans, it's not going to be as much as what they anticipated and X, Y, and Z. But I think and I know sometimes I'll be at fault as that, as we always say, well, they got everything handed to them anyway, free tuition, free room and board, and the list goes on and on. But at the same time, it's like maybe the other kid, he might not have that lucky growing up and lived in poverty, or lived, whatever the case may be, and it helps him out more than we realize.
Yeah, 100%. I definitely agree with that. And also, I mean, kind of going back on that, the NCAA, man, I mean, it was maybe 5, 6 years ago, maybe, that they allowed, kind of unlimited meals for these for these college kids.
Yeah.
And even still, the smaller schools still don't get the benefit of some of these groundbreaking decisions and groundbreaking rules in the game. They don't, some of these players at these smaller schools, they still don't kind of reap the benefits of it because they're at such a small school, such a small market. The school is not as, you know, wealthy, right? And
Yep.
they don't have the opportunity to get some of these things, especially, I can only think about a school like Eastern. There's not a lot of businesses in Charleston, Illinois, right? There's not a lot of big businesses that can really shell out a decent amount of money to those players and give them deals. It's just not. Now, anything helps, for those guys. Because if
Absolutely.
I'm at Eastern, you got 130 players in the locker room or whatever. Let's say, maybe they cut smaller deals and kind of break it up amongst guys. Maybe some schools can kind of, figure something out that way. But at the end of the day, the rich get richer, man. You know what I'm saying? That's just
Exactly.
that's just the honest truth. So my thing is you got to position yourself to be in that category some type of way. If you're at a smaller school, what can you do? All right. To monetize your brand.
Hmm.
So that's the thing. Find a way to monetize your brand. They can make money from YouTube and all that stuff now. So find a way to monetize your brand and definitely go all in it in the off season, right?
Absolutely.
Without taking away from football, taking away from your team, taking away from academics. Find a way to, find a way to do it. So there's some guys out there getting creative, I'm sure, but it's one of those things where you just got to kind of find your niche, be creative, and get it done. So I'm anxious to see. I want to do a case study, man. I want to see, I want to see at these smaller schools, these
Mhm.
D2 schools, even D3, even FCS. I want to see what are some ways, these athletes are, making their money. How are they coming up? Like, how are they being creative and finding their niche when it comes to the NIL and these rule changes? Because I'm sure you got some guys out there super creative who's coming up with all types of ideas and getting other teammates involved, which is great. I commend that. So I want to do kind of a case study in the offseason to see if I can find something and I'll post it and I may write about it, one day or whatnot. So I kind of want to, take a deep dive in that.
Well, I got two players that you can definitely talk with, and hopefully they can help you out as well. Daryl Branch, who's been on the show a few times, or Tennessee State. I don't know why I keep saying East Tennessee State. Tennessee State, and then D'Artagnan Tinsley, Kentucky Christian. So I know I got two of them for you that will be willing to, I'm sure, help
Ooh.
you out. And I can shoot a DM, just shoot you their handles and all that good stuff. But I'll be curious. I'll be looking forward to that one. I'm kind of curious myself of how, even from the FCF level on down to D, D3 NAIA for that matter. But I'm kind of curious on that one.
Yeah, 100%, man.
Of course, I haven't asked it a lot lately on the guest, and I should have, but in the past, I've always asked kind of people kind of get a glimpse of everybody's world that took place last year, and with COVID and the lockdowns and everything else that came in place. For you, Mr. Whitlow, what was 2020? Not so much in one word, but what was 2020 like for you, and was there parts of your life prior to, or what we always say pre-COVID, that you just, I shouldn't say that you didn't take for granted so much, but then you realized that maybe I should have focused, like for me, for example, time with family and all that, we always get busy, but he's like, I don't have time. I don't have time. Of course, now you have time because you guys are also isolated in these four walls. But jokes aside, but no, for real, what was 2020 like for you personally, from the COVID, and also to bring it up for with all the social injustice that was taking place during this time, of course, was a big thing, and rightfully so. And for you personally, how did it affect you, and how did 2020 shape out for you?
Yeah, so I think, kind of just what everybody's saying, they appreciate the family time and whatnot. That was a big deal, especially you seeing all this COVID stuff and kind of the tragedies from it. You really start to be appreciative and grateful. That the time that you spend with family and whatnot. So I think that was a big thing for me and for everybody probably. But another big thing for me was um, definitely with the all the injustice stuff and even just the time that you had. I think one thing that was kind of glaring was time. Like you kind of learn and you appreciate just time, right? That's one thing I did. I appreciate just you know having time to do things, right? I had the time to write a book, even because if COVID never happened, this book would never be published.
True.
That's just the truth. Maybe I would have started it, or maybe I would have thought about it later,
Mhm.
but it wouldn't be published as of February of 2020 or February of 2021. So that's, February 4th, 2021 is what the day I published it. And I don't think that would have happened without COVID. So I try to look at the positive, of some things, spending time with family. I got a chance to sit and really like think, because everything slowed down, things are closed, people off the road. So you kind of got a sense of like serenity
Mhm.
almost. You got a chance to really just think about things and I came to my senses with a lot of stuff. Um, so I think that was huge, and I just really learned, right? I learned about things that I didn't, you know, expect to learn about, didn't anticipate learning about, read things that I didn't anticipate reading, watch certain videos and podcasts that I didn't anticipate watching and learned a lot from. It was a huge eye opener for me, man. I tried to make the most of it, and when I look back on it, I still think I could have made a little bit of a little bit of
Mhm.
uh, leeway in some areas of my life with that time. But hindsight is always 2020. But I think the big thing was just the time, man. You really got a chance to learn and just sit with yourself and kind of think, because it was just a sense of serenity outside.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? At least I'm in Atlanta, Georgia, man. So to not get caught in traffic in Atlanta, Georgia is something weird's going on.
I can
So
imagine. I can imagine.
yeah, so that was the big thing for me. Even got a chance to take a job in Georgia, and
Nice.
I learned a lot then. I learned, Coach Pete DeWeese was the offensive coordinator, and I was, lucky to be the quarterback coach the senior quarterback. Learned a lot from Pete. He's big on social media. Everybody knows him, so I'm sure he watched this podcast too, probably. Um, but I would just I try to look at the positives. Is what I'm saying.
Right.
there's a lot of positives to take away from it, and I just hope I was appreciative enough to take those positives.
Absolutely. And you bring up social media, which seems to be everybody's life that everybody runs to nowadays. And I got asked when I was on a certain podcast, the Funny Moments podcast, the host asked me, and I kind of like to carry on the same question, just kind of get people's reactions, kind of see how people react. My answer was probably not so great to him, I'm sure, but I don't know. No, he's a cool guy, but nonetheless, when it comes to social media, when you see, some of the negativity in regards to comments, maybe somebody, you said a racial slur, something negative, or just negativity in general. It doesn't have to be whatever, just something negative like this day really sucks. I hate my life, blah, 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 blah. How do you handle negativity just in your life? Not so much even in social media, just in life in general. How do you handle negativity?
Uh, man, to be honest, I just try to always, have the mentality that there's always two sides to
Mhm.
everything. You know, what may seem like a negative can sometimes end up being a positive, and vice versa. So I just try to, I honestly try to play life like I played football and like I was taught to play football by my parents and my coaches growing up, taught to play quarterback. And I actually just got off Zoom with the high school quarterback around in the Atlanta area who has a game tomorrow. We typically meet on Thursday nights and talk about game plan and watch a little film and whatnot. But I was talking to him about um, you know, being level, man, being balanced, right? There's people who, can't handle success, and there's people who can't handle adversity. And I don't want to be around either of those people. And I
Mhm.
don't like to coach kids like that because, um, it's contagious. So you got to teach people how to, handle it. And every situation is different. There's certain adverse situations that's so stark that it's hard to handle. I
Mhm.
get it. There's certain things that's so great that it's hard not to kind of get sidetracked a little bit. But I try to stay level, man. I try my best to stay as level as possible. Not perfect, obviously, but I
Right.
try I try my best to just stay level. If it's negative, I try not to be around it. Try to dismiss it. Try to drown it out with something positive. If it's positive, I accept it and kind of try to refocus on what's next. And appreciate it and refocus on what's next. Just like throwing a touchdown. Okay, cool. You celebrating the end zone, but once you get to the sideline, what's next? How did it, what was my footwork like on this play? What happened? Okay, next drive, we seeing this. Let's do this different. We looking at this, like play action here, we like screen here, whatever. Right. And if it's negative, okay, why was it negative? That happened. Okay, if we see this look again, this is how we can fix it. So that's ultimately what I try to do. And I know that sound like coach speak and sound like the typical answer. It sounds cliche, but that's just what I strive to do, honestly, because negative things gonna happen. And about social media, honestly, I learned how to deal with the negative stuff on social media when I got to college, man.
Nice.
Opposing teams, fans, and even some of our fans, it's just what it is. Fans are fans. You
Yeah.
have bad games, bad things happen. I remember, I remember my freshman year getting back to the dorm, and I checked my messages on because all the fans hit you up, family hit you up. You just play on TV or whatever, and people contact you
Mhm.
saying they saw you or good job or bad job. So I checked my messages on Facebook, and I had some very nasty messages. But I was, I guess it's just my personality. Like I didn't even think twice about it. I just didn't respond.
Right.
I deleted them. I wish I wouldn't have deleted the messages, but I just didn't respond. I either deleted the message and went about my night or my day like it was normal. Um, but I know some people like respond to certain people on social media and whatnot. I'm just not into that, man. I'm not into social media, to be honest with you. I do it because there's a purpose for what I do. So I'm just not into that. I'm not into posting stuff all the time, and that's just not. I'd rather spend my time doing other things. You know, but there's industries that gotta have social media. There's businesses that need it, and you gotta interact with people for those purposes. So I get it, but it's a lot of negativity out there, and social media is like a cesspool of it. People say whatever they want to say to you. Probably some stuff they wouldn't say to your face, they'll say it on social media. With the Twitter egg. So
Yep.
it is what it is, man. So I don't really care either way, to be honest with you.
Yeah, social media, I'm Facebook, I'm not so much active like I used to be, and Twitter, it's hit and miss now, seems like. But social media, I think it's funny how, like you said, it's funny to an extent. I'm sure that people like to say stuff, but the second you meet them face to face, it'd be a whole different ballgame. I'm sure they probably couldn't punch. I don't know. They might fight like a girl. I really, I really don't know. But
Yeah,
uh,
man.
moving on, of course, you're the founder of BTG.
Mhm.
Explain that and tell the listeners out there what it's about and the purpose of BTG.
Yeah, so it stands for Be the Glitch, and what Be the Glitch is people, the kids who grew up playing Madden and NCAA football know what I'm talking about. You always got a play or a player that's a glitch in the game that you just can't stop. I remember playing NCAA. Me and AJ Legree, who played receiver at Kentucky, he was my roommate my sophomore year. We used to play NCAA. Sometimes in the summer, be up on the weekends all night with teammates playing NCAA. I'm talking all night, 3 a.m. Playing NCAA football. Just being college students in the summer, man.
Right.
So Oregon and Alabama on NCAA, you can't stop them. It's impossible. That was a glitch. So I took that and I started this in 2017 when I moved to Hilton Head, South Carolina. I was also coordinator quarterbacks coach at Hilton Head High.
Mhm.
Back in 17, I moved there straight out of college. And I started it. I always wanted to work with quarterbacks. I always into football. I wanted to stay connected to the sport in many ways as possible, not just one when I got done playing. So it was a way for me to stay connected to it. So I started training quarterbacks in that area, young kids, as many as I can, from ages 8 on up, really 10 on up. And it's just kind of grown. It's something that I like doing. I enjoy doing. I really don't see as work.
Mhm.
Um, so I just enjoy, training quarterbacks, teaching them what I know. And it also keep me on my toes too, because one day I may want to be a coordinator again and just keep me learning. And I tell my quarterbacks this all the time. When our sessions are over, I learn just as much as you learn
Yep.
or more. You know what I'm saying? So that's the type of approach I take from it, man. The way I teach is so much different now than it was 3 years ago. It's ridiculous. I kind of cringe at the way I used to teach sometimes now. That I'm older and more wise, and I'm sure it's going to continue to keep growing.
Mhm.
But yeah, BTG, man, it was just started. Me and my brother, we kind of, you know, are kind of running it, and we're
Right.
just looking to keep expanding and keep growing because we want to build a network of quarterbacks and athletes that you know that are kind of prepared, like connecting the book to it, just kind of prepared and ready for every situation that may arise in their sport and whatnot. So that's kind of what we pride ourselves on, man. It's just being prepared and teaching as much as we can teach, and really learn as much as we can learn, and kind of implanting that into our athletes.
That's awesome, and it kind of I was gonna kind of wanting to lead that into the next one was growing up, even through your playing days when you first started playing football up to high school, college. Who was your inspiration through all that entire time growing up, and even to this day? Who has been your inspiration? Who is your inspiration, and how did he or she affect your life in so many ways? I'm sure that you can't even thank them enough for what they've done.
Just you're saying just my overall inspiration?
Is whoever anybody you have a I'm sure you have a long list. It can be anybody, everybody, and
Yeah. I mean, I got so many people, man. You got to start with my parents.
Mhm.
You know, just I'm just grateful to be able to learn from them, and and take the wisdom from them. But that's probably the obvious answer. But honestly, man, my inspiration. I mean, I try to take a lot from everybody, and I know that's not the funnest answer, um, but yeah, man, I can give you this though. Growing up playing sports, my the first person that I was like, man, I kind of want to be like that. As far as just because I grew up loving basketball, was Allen Iverson.
Oh yes.
Allen Iverson was like, I had the shoes. I wore the finger sleeve to school. I wore the headband to school. I did all of that in elementary. And another one was Michael Vick, of course,
Mhm.
Peyton Manning, of course, and LeBron. Because it's crazy to say, but LeBron been playing in the NBA since I was in fourth grade.
Yeah,
So
that's crazy.
that's crazy to say, but I had his first pair of shoes. I remember we were at an All-Star basketball tournament. We went to the mall and I think we were in Birmingham somewhere, Alabama, and my dad bought me some LeBrons. It was his first pair of LeBrons. I wish I still had them. They probably worth like $2,000
Right?
um, but yeah, man. So I kind of was, and another thing was, it seemed like it was all sports, but I kind of grew up in a household where we did other things too, man. So um, I had an inspiration coming from a lot of different angles. I had a lot of people around me, you know, that kind of gave me inspiration. I remember one of my dad's one of his friends who was his quarterback for his semi-pro football team was an inspiration of mine. J.R. Richardson. I
Mm.
just, I grew up going to those semi-pro games, being a, little big head kid at the games on the sideline, getting ran over on the sideline by those big old grown men, as a kid. And I remember just, him just teaching me. I remember one day we were in an office and he was on a dry erase board just teaching me football. I was in like fourth or fifth grade, maybe sixth. So I had inspiration coming from a lot of different angles. So, all that I'm grateful for and thankful for sure.
I like that, and I really like, and like you said, I agree with you. A lot of people say parents and grandparents and stuff like that, but I really like your answer because a lot of people play certain roles in your life to where you're at now, and it starts from, it might be your little league pee wee football coach, to your high school coach, middle school coach. The list goes on and on. And I like that because we don't realize, even though as much, I still talk to my high school coach, but I may not talk to so and so, but that person still had an impact on your life to where you're at now. And I like that answer, and of course, you know, yeah, parents are, especially my dad. Same like I could hear my dad, but parents and both sacrifice a lot to help do what they had to do to get me where I got to go, and I applaud him for that. And yeah, man, his parents play a huge role. I definitely don't give enough credit, but and even when I am a parent, it's like, wow, now I know how my parents felt, because man, this is this is no joke. But nah, it's cool. Real quick before I want to do something a little different on the show is, what was the best environment, playing wise, on the road? I know the SEC has so many environments at that place; it's insane.
Yeah.
um, Regardless of Eastern Illinois and Kentucky, what was that one environment I like, man, this is insane? And I know Gainesville can get up there too.
Yeah, that was gonna be the first one I said. I remember my freshman year. First of all, we played. It was a noon kick,
Mhm.
so you had to wake up super early that day. Get prepared to go play a game. Florida in 2012. Florida was like Florida. They were good. I mean, everybody on the field went to the NFL. Literally, seemed like. Um, so they were pretty good. But I'll never forget, man. It was scorching hot. We were in warm-ups and we couldn't stop sweating. And ironically, it was September, but Lexington, Kentucky that week for some reason was like super cool. it was like we were practicing early in the mornings too, and it was like super cool that week. And we get to Florida, and it's like super hot, man. It's hot, it's humid, but the fans are right on top of me. So I'm on the sideline talking to my teammates, literally right next to them, not even a foot away from them. And I couldn't hear them. I couldn't hear what I was saying, and they couldn't hear what I was saying.
Wow.
And I was talking as loud as I possibly can, and they still couldn't hear me. That's how loud that stadium gets.
Wow.
And people don't realize that, man. But home field advantage is a real thing, man.
Mm-hmm.
Especially in environments like that. That's a real thing. Like I couldn't hear what my guy was saying, and he was literally his shoulder to shoulder, and in that stadium, and it was that's when I said, yeah, this is real right here, man. this is different. So, Florida was the swamp was definitely on that list because I called that one early freshman year. But it's another one I'm thinking about that was at Eastern. That was a great place to play. Jacksonville State was a great place to play. Great place to play. They got a nice stadium, nice facilities. I got to think of it's another one that was great. We played at Minnesota my junior year, but it was one more. I can't. Oh, Northern Iowa.
Oh,
Northern Iowa. My senior year playoff game, my last game ever. We played at Northern Iowa. It was like Thanksgiving weekend, so the stands weren't even full, but I mean they had, it was probably a little bit over half capacity,
right.
maybe half, but it's an indoor facility. It's a dome, and you just it's a dome. You can't hear, man. Like it's crazy. You can't hear anything. So we changed the snap count, up during the week, and it was so loud that I mean, if you're not really, it's hard to win, man. You got to be really mentally there. I screwed up the snap count twice that game, and I remember the O line coach, Coach Hudson. He was actually coaching for the Raiders, and he was like looking at me like, bro, like you gotta, what I'm saying? I screwed
Right.
it up twice
Exactly.
because it's so loud, and they had one of those defenses where you got to process a lot. It's a lot going on, and
Wow.
I remember I screwed up the snap count, and I was like, man, this all because of how loud it is in here. We got a penalty, so we got to move back 5 yards. And
Mm.
I was thinking to myself, that's crazy. So home field advantages, I would say those two stadiums, the Swamp and Northern Iowa. But I got to give an honorable mention to South Carolina. We played at 7. It was a 7 or 7:30 kick.
Mm-hmm.
At what's it called, Bryce something Stadium, or
Yeah, it's
yeah, in Columbia, South Carolina. Um, Bryce Williams, I think.
I think that is.
Uh, so we played at Bryce Williams in Columbia, South Carolina, and that was nuts at 7:30. They start playing a sandstorm and everything. Um, and that was wild. So and ironically, I just got off Zoom the other day with one of my former players from South Carolina. He goes to University of South Carolina now. But yeah, South Carolina is a wild place to play too. That place gets pretty crazy.
Nice. And I'm sure I kind of figured that Gainesville, the swamp, would be up there because I've never been there physically, but just watching on TV, I can just imagine the noise literally on the field with God knows how many people are in that stadium yelling,
Yes,
screaming, jumping, and God knows what else they were doing, I'm sure.
yeah, it's ridiculous, man.
Well, real quick before I end the show, want to do a little special random question draw presented by Law Train Watches. Save 10% on all orders using the code AIRRAID. Question for you, Jalen, is given the choice of anyone in the world, whom would you want as a dinner guest?
A dinner guest. And this is gonna throw people for a loop. But I've always said this. This is the only person on the planet that I've ever wanted to meet. He died back in 2016. Uh, Dick Gregory. And I don't know if people know who he is, but he was a comedian, like a civil rights activist, humanitarian.
Yep.
I mean, a lot of things. Author. a whole bunch of things. He was one person that I can only think of that's I mean by far there's other people I would want to be a dinner guest with and whatnot, but he was number one because I like talking to older people. Um, because it's just they just know so much, man. It's just
Oh,
you're
absolutely.
gonna leave with something. So but yeah, that would be my one.
I took one from a buddy of mine, and I apologize if this makes you laugh, but this is how he asked. When was the last time you felt lit up?
Felt what?
Lit up.
Lit up.
I don't know what he means by that. I apologize on that one. I don't know. I won't say his name for his own even self being.
Last time I felt lit up. That's a good one. I would probably have to say high school. We were playing Oxford. If you're talking about, I mean, lit up, I just associate with football. We were playing Oxford and Quan Alexander. He played for I think he played for the Saints now or something like that. And the hardest hit I ever took in my life. I mean, I couldn't talk, I couldn't breathe, I couldn't even call the next play. So I definitely felt lit up on that one.
I like that. Last two more. Um, that's not it. There we go. Nope, that wasn't it. Do you have anything autographed by a celebrity or a sports athlete?
I do not. I do not.
And then the last one, oh, here we go. And the last one, well, that was about a book. So I'm gonna go on to the next person that here we go. What's your theme song and why?
My theme song. That's a good question, man. Um, theme song. I would have to ask my girlfriend or something. I don't know. I don't know, man. My theme song. I would have to say right now. I would probably have to say Nipsey Hussle. Um,
Yeah.
All Get Right. That's probably that's probably one of my theme songs. And why is because it's just a good vibe to it. It's not too fast and hard. It's not too slow and mellow. It's right in the middle, and it's a positive message in it. That I take from it. So I would probably have to say that's probably right now. That's probably my theme song. I wish I was more prepared for that one. That was a good question.
And the last one, I promise on this one. What did your 15-year-old self imagine you would be doing right now?
I mean, 15. Is I think everybody imagined themselves. At least from where I was from, probably still playing football.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not too far from still in the game. So I definitely imagine myself playing for a long time. But there's also uh, different avenues and forks in the road. So I took the next best thing, and that's coaching football, training athletes, um, and just really just trying to enjoy what I do, um, and do it to the best of my ability. So that's kind of where I see myself. I knew I saw myself doing something with
Mm-hmm.
football though. I also one of my things growing up was I wanted to be like, one of those commentators on Sunday night football in the NFL or on, some type of college football, be a commentator. But I saw myself as a youngin doing that. But yeah, so yeah, man, I think I'm doing what I need to be doing.
Very nice. So, no, your playing days, you could you see yourself playing again?
Uh,
Tough.
no, man. I really I can't. Let me
Right.
rephrase that. I can, but I'm not. I
Understandable.
can I can see myself playing, but I just I kind of got a passion for some other things
Mhm.
that I want to do now, and that's just it would get in the way of playing football and training and getting back in that type of shape.
Yes, sir.
And getting back in that type of form will get in the way of kind of some other things that I want to get accomplished. And the other things that I want to get accomplished, I think will have a much more long-lasting effect than playing football. And like one of those things was I always wanted to write a book. I always wanted to do something other than be one of those just athlete guys.
Right.
You know, I always wanted to do something else and be known for something else. That's why the book was such a big deal to me. That's why doing these podcasts is such a big deal to me, and I appreciate it because I get a chance to like really, talk about this. I get a chance to really talk about other things other than X's and O's, and
Right.
just being a football player, just being a quarterback. I'm also, son, a brother, and all that good stuff too, man. So I cherish the people who ask questions that's other than the actual sport. So for that, man, I definitely appreciate you.
Hey, I appreciate you as well, and that means a lot. And I think, and I'm trying to branch, away from not so much just the sports in general, but I think we as a mindset, and me included, growing up, we get the sports realm, and somebody said, the founder of Law Terrain, Dave, he said it really well on the podcast I listened to, Time to BS podcast, and he said it perfectly. He says, unfortunately, we live in a world where people look at sports as practically their happiness, their what fills their void. He says it's an entertainment purpose. It shouldn't be there to fill your void. If it does, you obviously got to self-evaluate yourself. And and like I told you prior to the show, with my dad, his health, his ups and downs, what he suffered last year, and of course, my wife and I, we lost some good people to COVID, and it puts into perspective. Sports it's fun. I mean, don't get me wrong, but at the end of the day, I know I got some Broncos stuff behind me, but at the end of the day, it's meaningless because you got I got 3 kids and a wife and a family, and at the end of the day, they're gonna be right there alongside you. This is just temporary. So,
And don't get me wrong, man, I could talk sports and football
oh,
all day,
absolutely, absolutely.
but I definitely agree with what you just said. Like and if you got I want to get into some more outdoorsy stuff too, man. So if you got any like anything that I need to look into, man, shoot it over to me. I thought about I like fishing. I like fishing all my life, but I thought about starting to hunt and doing that type of thing, and
Have a nice.
I just just being outdoors. I just like honestly, I just like to do other things too. So I'm at that. 3 years ago, it wasn't like this. I was single focused on coaching football. So
Absolutely.
this book actually kind of helped me. And COVID, that time, quarantine and doing that thing, I'm telling you, man, it kind of, I think it changed the world a little bit. It changed a lot of people
Absolutely.
for the better. So you just gotta be appreciative. But yeah, man, I appreciate you, man. I love doing this. I love getting on, man. So if you want to have me again sometime in the near future or far future, let me know.
Hey, I'm gonna shoot you once we get done. I'll shoot you my number, and I know during the holidays, it'll be tough. I know for everybody, but yeah, I love to have you back on, just talk life, and you never know. I may talk some football and some sports, but definitely talk live because I'm sure you got all kinds of other stories that I'd love to hear as well.
Yeah, I got a whole bunch, man. So one day we can start getting into them.
Hey, I'll power it to you. Everybody, Jalen Whitlow, the author of Prepared. I'll get all the information. I will add it to the YouTube channel description as well as the podcast description once it's released tonight at midnight. So I will get that edited and going. But Mr. Whitlow, Jalen, thank you for coming on, and I absolutely enjoyed having you on, and I definitely will get you back on as soon as possible.
I appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me. Keep doing what you're doing, man. I think it's a great thing.
Hey, I appreciate it. Take care, my man. Stay safe out there. You've been listening to the Air Raid Attack podcast. Episode drops here in about 3 hours from now. Stay tuned. Have a wonderful week, and we'll see you all next week.